we really have enjoyed the presentations today. And could you tell us a little bit about what each of you did? I think that would be good.
Yeah,
with
because
Epcot.
the viewers wouldn't have seen the
Right, the
presentation.
viewers haven't seen the presentation.
Yeah. Just a quick.
My job during Epcot is I work for PICO. And PICO is an acronym for Project Installation Coordination Office. Okay, and we had a warehouse about 15 miles from here in Orlando Central Park. And so anything was bought, manufactured, or built for show installation went and required storage went into the warehouse. If it was going to be delivered directly to the site, then I had people that would meet the truck, go through the paperwork, and ensure that the product was delivered in the proper condition. About $350 million worth of equipment went through the warehouse, and the unusual thing about it, it's one of a kind. Okay? Couldn't really lose anything. Now, that gets to the show sets and electronic equipment, the tables and chairs and restaurant equipment. There was always a 10% overbuy. Okay?
What was the biggest thing you lost?
That's a good question, Charlie.
We misplaced some cabling for about a week or so, but we finally found that cabling. But that was a challenge. The other thing it was I think when I set up on stage, it was sort of like every day was Christmas. Okay, the truck would come in, and because the trucks were loaded by people at Tahunga and at the studio and that type of thing, the drivers didn't have any real responsibility other than to drive the truck. Okay, so they weren't responsible for loading the truck. They weren't responsible for unloading the truck. And in turn, you literally open the back door of the truck and look in there, and you'd have a manifest, okay, and try to figure out, okay, what is it? Okay, how did they get it on, and how were we going to get it off and not break it? Now, the other thing is every item had a item identification number and a tag associated with it. Okay, so you thought everybody would know that if I got this, then I needed to tag it and identify it. Well, I remember one crate coming in, rather large wood crate, and it had 50 tags stapled to the outside of the crate for all the product that was inside the crate. So in turn, we had to open the crate up and then identify all the items inside the crate and re-tag it.
Made work for you.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I did during it.
Tom did the same thing for Paris, Disneyland Paris.
Wow.
I went there and managed that whole warehousing operation and whatnot. You remember that Disney created factories, I would say. The stuff that we couldn't find anybody else to manufacture.
True.
We had to create plants to produce them. So Mapo was the manufacturing arm that did rides and things like that. They had a big warehouse and construction area out at Tijuana, and a lot of the stuff was even done at WDI itself. They were right next to each other.
Yeah, Orlando was just going through a transitional period during that time frame. When we built the Magic Kingdom, there wasn't anything. Everything had to come out of LA, out of the LA basin, shipped in, and that. And
like the monorail beams from the presentation.
Yeah, from Tahunga. Yeah, so we lost two of those. Talking about losing. They fell off the train coming across during the winter, and the snow buried them, so they had to cast two new beams.
Magic Kingdom.
It was the two beams coming out of the Contemporary Hotel.
Yeah, he mentioned it coming across the country by truck, but they didn't. They came on train, and they had to mount them so that they would span two cars. But when the car went on a curve, of course, that couldn't bend, so it was tied at each end, and down going in the middle, it would stay straight and they'd come across. They had to be real careful when they were going around sharp curves.
Well, that's the fireman truck you spoke of. After us.
That stands for Mary Poppins, and that was our division of the Magic Kingdom.
There were all kinds of funny names.
Yeah, Wed designed it, Maple manufactured.
The funniest name I remember was before we opened, we started dealing with the state tourism people and so forth, and So they gave the project a code name of Pluto, because everybody would think it was associated with the space program and not realize it meant
that's right.
Disney.
Find the-
I'd never heard this. Very
Well, what were you
interesting.
doing at that point?
I don't remember. No, I was I was an Imagineer, but from the film side. So I was a writer, producer, director of, and working with several of the films within the pavilions here, including The Living Seas was kind of my baby, the media for that, and some of the.
Oh, you
so
didn't.
you
You
did
didn't
the
mention
film.
that
That
in
would've
the.
been a little later.
That's
That
very
was
interesting.
a little later, yeah. But at that time,
Were you working on American Adventure film?
yeah, I worked on that.
Wow.
So,
Paris,
but
French film.
right, and then I got to, as I mentioned in the presentation, the thing that I love most is doing the films about Epcot and capturing all this talent, all this energy, and I had learned who all these people were, like Ward Kimball and all the people who originally worked with Walt Disney, and it was so neat because they were teaching us, but I could drop in and like a fly on the wall and capture all the things they were doing.
Wow.
Objectively,
lot of
I talked about that, because I was absolutely fascinated with it, and I think Marty Sklar knew that.
There were a lot of old timers working at WDI.
They were
guys
like
that had been with
teachers.
Walt
They
for
were
years,
teaching.
but
I mean,
they were
Herb Ryman
there
had
were also
had
young
a
guys
background
like
with
Tom
us.
Fitzgerald and some people like that were quite new.
Yeah, Tom and I started together too.
Yeah.
But you had the old timers, and then you had the new guys, the Tony Baxters, and that whole group of people that were coming up and coming out of the model group. And the one thing I think we do best in this company is train people, right?
Yeah.
To teach
we were in
them.
awe of those guys
Yeah.
too. We didn't
And-
just
and-
knew Herb Ryman had a background with Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, and I had as a child, as I mentioned. And so there was a connection right there. I was a kid compared to him when I started, So, but he spent time, and Ward Kimball and all of them spent time with us and taught us.
Fantastic mentors.
We're going to play musical chairs after one last question.
Well, we're appreciative of the Mickey Mouse shot. I know. I don't think we'll
Now
ever
the
have
com-
another chance
now
at it.
the
So it's,
company is. They have been in the last few years. I saw Dick Brunis. He was in I did a 90-minute special called Disney Treasure, Secret Stories Imagined.
we have that.
have
That's
that.
very good.
And thanks, and Julie Andrews hosted. It was cool. And but Dick Nunes is interviewed in, and he and I just laughed about it. You didn't laugh about it then.
Yeah,
Well, I was different then. Yeah.
that was a fantastic
But
story.
when you went back that time, it was very adamant that the Figment was the key character for
Figment and Dreamfinder. No.
and it took a long time to make that transition and finally get the character merchandise in here. But
Maybe that shot was what brought Mickey to the.
I wanted to mention
When
one-
did you do the shot of
What's the
the spaceship? Or what year?
When I think it was, I don't know, I think 83 or something. But I wanted to mention that we're talking about evolution. When Michael Eisner came in, and of course Charlie remembers this, but it was like we need to get younger people interested in our parks. We're losing them, at Disneyland and all that. So I was assigned a project called Captain EO to do the pre-show with Michael Jackson and all that. So it was neat I got to be with him, direct him, work on that, and that was a big deal in those days. He had just come off the Japan tour and everything, so it was great to have those kinds of opportunities.
You could see your film now, still in the park.
Somebody said it was back in.
It
It
has
is.
been for like
Yeah.
a year.
And I told my sons that who were growing now, they went, "Yeah, sure, Dad. Sure, you look good, Michael Jackson." I did.
Musical chairs time, I'm sorry to say.